Got that. Come on and tell me you're live. There we go. Cue the camera and the applause. Hello, how's everybody doing today? Thank you for coming. Let's see. Get you in just a minute. Let's see, who have we got in class today? Gloria, right? Okay. I still don't feel confident enough, you know? Let's see, we got Lelia's here, Olivia's here, Bradley's here, Olivia. Lelia is here. Olivia, Bradley. Ariana Truss, Bradley. Bradley's here. Let me see. Online, Gloria's here with me. Leela's online. Let's see, Mr. Wagner is here. Okay, Kayla Smith's here. Michael Kane. Caitlin is here. Sorry, folks, I'm just trying to get attendance. Okay. Fantastic. Landon Hauser is here as Weevil. It's good to see you, Landon. And Bella, hello, Bella. How are you doing? Wow, pretty good crowd we've got here. Okay, guys, we can start. We can start. Holy cow, Torrance is in the classroom. Good to see you, man. How you doing? Fantastic. And Noah? Wow, thanks. You know what? I have been counting you absent for the last several online classes because I didn't know Noka.
See, that's my Google profile. It's not my real name. I just don't put that on anything.
Nope. I'm glad when I saw you type your name in yesterday, I was like, oh, wow. So I went back and fixed your attendance for the semester. Okay, cool. All right. Yep, everybody's got their nicknames. So, how's everybody doing? Good to see you. We are getting close to the end. I don't know about you, but I am incredibly excited about that fact. Quickly, a couple of announcements. Writing assignment 4 rewrites are due this Sunday at 7/16. No more rewrites after this Sunday for writing assignment 4. Remember, writing assignment 5, which I'm in the middle of grading, and writing assignment 6, which I'm going to grade as quickly as possible, will be due the following week if you get a grade of 1. Now, Chris, if I've already done 4 assignments and received a grade of meets expectations on 4 assignments, do I need to keep turning them in? No, you don't. In fact, I'll grade them, but I kind of wish you wouldn't because we don't need that. But if you want to write the assignments and get the feedback, I'll be more than happy to grade them. But some of you have already done the first 4 assignments and have made the check mark. Writing assignment 5 and 6, if you need to do rewrites, they're due next Sunday or the following Sunday, 7/23. Now, I have told you that homework grades, all of your homework grades need to be at 95% in order to at least get a C in this class. Some of you still have grades, homework grades you need to revise. If you're going to revise coursework in this class, it must happen by 7/23. So these are the dates when coursework must be completed. I don't want somebody calling me in October saying, hey, can I finish that homework assignment and still pass your class? You know what I mean? There has to be an arbitrary time for it to be over. Yes, Ashika?
I was just looking at what you were writing in there.
Oh, okay. You were looking at me like you had a question. Anybody else have any questions? Hi, how are you doing? Thanks for coming today. Let's see. Mahika's online, right? Mahika, okay. All right, very good. All right, fantastic. Kyung Kim's here as well. Fantastic. So that's no more coursework revisions after 7/23. Is that clear? Now, if you would, I probably should have been doing more than this more often, but I'm going to do it today. What I'd like for you to do is I'd like for you to get into some small groups. We got 2 people over here, 2 people over there. I know you hate this idea, but make a friend right over here. Gloria will work. Or how about all 3 of you? Groups of 2 or 3. And what I'd like for you to do is to pick one of these 3 events. If you are online, I would like for you folks online to select one of these bad events. And what I want you to do is spend 5 minutes talking about your friend What's going through your mind when this happens? How does this make you feel? So here's the deal. You're 16 and your parents have decided to move to Arkansas next week. What's your reaction going to be, okay? Or number two, you have to go to work every day and you have to drive through that 40 corridor going right through RTP. It absolutely sucks every day. Or you just wrecked your car. Or you can have one of those dead-end jobs that you absolutely hate and you have to go to day in and day out. Pick one of those events, get with a friend, and tell me how does that make you feel? Come on, and spend a couple of minutes doing that. The third one actually happened to Bradley during the June. Okay, fantastic. So Bradley, why don't you folks talk about how you felt when you wrecked your car? Go ahead and take a couple of minutes to let us know what it feels like. Okay? All right, and I'm going to go ahead, while y'all type that on the chat bar, I'm going to go ahead and show the class out here. You see they're talking as well.
Depending on your environment, culturally, it's super conservative and very religious. I don't know if anybody
Find a friend if you would, Maya. These two ladies right up here.
So there's nothing else to do besides that. You have to be into hunting and hiking or things like that. Yeah, and then talk about it. Yeah, how does it feel? I would be I think I struggle the most with I'd be I don't know what's gonna happen. And the future is so unclear. You don't really know what it's gonna be like. Yeah, no, it's
So we're talking about the things that stress us out. I don't know about you, but stress is a normal part of my day-to-day life. Yeah, right, damn. But you're never going to get away from the bad things that happen in your life. You're going to wreck your car. You're going to have to drive through traffic. Your job sucks. Maybe something's going to happen. I don't know if any of you have ever had a company decide that you're going to move to another part of the world. But these are sort of stressful events that we all have to deal with every day. Bradley said they didn't even talk to me. They were... Wow, so the person that wrecked your car, did they not seem sad or disappointed about that? Wow, really? That's pretty traumatic there, Bradley. Okay. With a stranger, I can't imagine. Well, I'm glad you weren't hurt, bud. Fantastic. Okay, quickly, let's bring it back if we could. So, today we're talking about stress, all the bad things that happen to us. If your life is like mine, something's always happening. It's never going smooth. There's always some kind of crap. As soon as I get the bills all paid off and I've got everything straight, something breaks down, right? As soon as I've got extra time, my mom or dad goes to the hospital and I've got to wind up over there taking care of their dogs or animal. Something's always happening. And these are sort of the things that can happen to you. I don't know if you knew this, but I moved to 9 different schools before I was in 3rd grade. All my parents did was move. We bounced around the world. And so as soon as I would get a group of friends, they're gone. Time to clean the slate. And this was back before social media. When you moved from Chicago to Charlotte, your friends were gone forever, right? So tell me, did anybody have this one? Did anybody talk about this? Okay, talk to me. What would be going through your mind? This is Kendall over here.
Initially, I would be pretty mad, and I would be like, why, out of all the places U.S. Why Arkansas?
Right.
And then also like it would be like a really big adjustment because now you gotta make new friends, gotta go to a new school. It'll just be different. Then you gotta get used to the culture there. But yeah, I wouldn't.
Right.
By all means, I would be against it.
Okay. How would you feel if it was Hawaii? I was going to have you move.
Yeah.
Okay, that wouldn't be okay. I picked Arkansas for that very reason. Okay. How many of you would like that? Moving to Arkansas?
It's really hot.
Okay. You know what? Sometimes things happen that are good, like moving to Hawaii. Your dad or mom gets a job and they're going to make twice as much money, but you have to make a life change, right? Okay, did anybody have something, traffic that hassled? Did anybody talk about that one? You did? Okay, cool. That's Christine and Ashika over here. So talk to me. How does that make you feel every day?
We would feel like really irritated and like impatient, and feel like it would like affect our mood when we would like get to work too. We were like pissed and annoyed.
Right, a 45-minute drive, people cutting you off, and then you get to work of all places, right? Okay, cool, that would be pretty stressful. All right, since that's sort of a thing that's going to happen day in and day out. Maybe you get to work and there's that guy that always forgets to clean his workstation and you've got to clean his mess up, or they don't roll their silverware properly. I don't know if any of you have ever worked in a restaurant. Rolling silverware is like the main thing you have to do to end your shift. You have to put the forks and the knives together, roll them up in the napkin. Somebody doesn't do that. Okay, and then there are semi-traumatic events. Now I picked a relatively not traumatic event. Okay, so we've got Bradley here. So Bradley wrecked his car and kind of stressed out when it happened. How else you said he's got a scar? They didn't even talk to him. Some strangers had to come. He actually just completely blanked out and sort of lost his consciousness. Anybody wreck a car in here or talk about that? All right, talk to me. What's going on in your life?
You're shocked. You don't know what to do. You don't know who to call at first. You're just like, oh, I don't know if I'm hurt. Like, I broke my car key in half. And car was closed. Basically, just like got out, walked around, looked at like what happened, and I hit a bus. What happened? I hit a city bus. And, the bus was fine. My car was totaled. But I looked around and like there was like people out there like, oh, my back hurts on the bus. I was like, oh shit. And then
Oh no.
and then I just like called the tow truck company and they scooped it up, scooped all my headlights off the ground with the shovel and.
Right. How'd you feel the next day about it? Psychologically, not physically.
I was a little mad. I was mad. I mean, it was my fault. There's nothing I could do about it. So
Oh really?
it was just irritating and big inconvenience. So.
Okay. How many? Yes, sir. Go ahead, Arian.
I think crashed my car. Well, I did, but like I once accidentally drove on the wrong side of the road.
Right.
Yeah, because like I missed the I was like turning on the car, like in my car, and then I just went on the wrong side. So I had to drive on the grass in order to like get to the other side of the road. So yeah, like that was I guess it was shocking.
Right. Absolutely. You didn't get caught, did you?
No.
Okay, Arian got away. If anybody lives near Arian, be on your guard, okay? Right, fantastic. Okay, hey, how many of you have a job that you want to talk? Go ahead, Buzz Bazitsky.
I'm going to argue that out of all of them, that one's probably the worst. Since that one, I would argue that the first two you can blame on outside variables, like the first one's your parents' fault or whatever. The second one you can blame on rush hour traffic. The third one, depending on if it's your fault for the accident, you have to blame it on yourself. Right?
Okay, right.
The thing with that one is it's a one-time event. It kind of impacts your life for that maybe day, maybe week, right? But then you get moved past it. The
Right.
issue with the fourth one is that you're stuck in that job for 40 years, or not 40 years, sorry, but for a decent amount of your life, and you have no one to blame but yourself because you're the person that got you to that point.
Absolutely, right. That's interesting, your responsibility in sort of determining your final effect of your stress response. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so we're talking about stress today. Stress comes in all sizes and shapes. Stress is anything that causes you to have to make a change. It can go from you losing a job to wrecking a car to me stepping in front of you in a hallway. You're walking down the hallway, I step in front of you. I'm a stressor. I'm causing you to make a change. Stress is anything that causes you to have to make an adjustment in your life. And there's a definition up there. And the stress, so we can think of stress as something out there, but stress is also a physiological experience, right? So you getting in my way is, I can call you stress, but the feeling that I experience is also stress as well. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to call everything that gets in our way, we're going to call it a stressor. That's the term they use. And the experience that you feel is the experience of stress. It's this non-specific physiological sense of arousal that each and every one of you has. Now, there's all kinds of different stressors in the world. And in fact, your book talks about them. Life changes, which are things that happen to you. And you know, the crazy thing is, life changes can be stressful even when they are positive. Anybody in here get married? It's a fabulous thing to do, but holy cow, is it stressful. Anybody in here have kids? They're fabulous to have, but holy cow, are they stressful. Positive things like planning a birthday party, planning a vacation, that can be a stress too. So life events stress us out. Then sometimes we have what we would call daily hassles, just small annoying things. What you might call traumatic offense, and then job burnout. These are all forms of things in our environment that stress us out as human beings. So what exactly is a stress response? So we've got some comments. So Olivia, oh, by the way, if I could stop, Olivia said she lived in Hawaii before, and the cost of living was so expensive that it took all the benefit out of living there, which I think is kind of interesting, okay? Actually, you'll see we've got a chat bar going up on the top side. I don't know if any of you can see that. So, it's even the housing doesn't cost. Still, we have a lot of stress. So, stress is a physiological response. It is mediated by this thing called your sympathetic nervous system. All right, so I'm showing the students at home this, and you should see this as well. We didn't talk about this when we came to the biopsych chapter, but all of the nerves outside of your brain and spinal cord are what we call your peripheral nervous system. All the nerves that go to your muscles, that move you around. We have a bunch of nerves that go to your muscles. We call them the somatic nervous system. We call them the somatic nervous system, soma, because they help you control your body. But there are also a bunch of nerves that go from your brain and spinal cord that go to your internal organs. We call these your autonomic nervous system. Now, we differentiate them from the somatic nervous system because the somatic nervous system you have control of. I can move my arms up and down at my will, but my heart rate kind of does what it does on its own. My stomach does what it does on its own. So the nerves that control them, we're going to call autonomic nerves. And this picture that you see on your screen right now is sort of a picture of the autonomic nervous system right here. And you'll notice that it's divided into a set of parasympathetic nerves and a set of sympathetic nerves. Now, all of these nerves go to your organs. But what happens is they change the functioning of your organs based upon what's happening in your environment. If nothing scary is happening in your environment, your parasympathetic nerves calm you down and they make your stomach work, right? So you have energy for digestion and energy for sex or whatever it is the organism does when it's not being threatened. Now, there are a set of nerves that go from your brain and spinal cord to your these same organs, and what they do is they cause a completely different set of reactions to occur when a threat comes into your environment. When a bear runs in this room, your body, your sympathetic nervous system is going to cause your heart to start beating faster. It's going to cause the little alveoli in your lungs to expand so you can get more oxygen. It's going to cause your respiration to increase. It's going to cause your eyeballs to dilate so you can see the threat more carefully. It's also going to stop your digestive processes because you don't need to worry about eating. Anybody ever been stressed out about an event and your stomach gets kind of upset? You can't eat because you've got a big test? That's a sympathetic nervous response. When you're aroused by the sympathetic nervous system, it causes your stomach and your digestive processes to stop. And so this is your your sympathetic nervous system. Now, if we could, I'd like to go back to the PowerPoint real quick. There we go, right there. Now, the sympathetic nervous response is sometimes called the fight or flight response. You've probably heard that term. That was coined by a fellow named Walter Cannon Bard way back in the 1930s. And it's triggered by your amygdala. Do you remember that brain structure we talked about? I suggested to you that your amygdala and your frontal lobe are what control your emotions, right? Your amygdala is that fight or flight emotional thing that tells you you're scared or excited by something. And I told you that your frontal lobe is the thing that helps you carefully evaluate the thing that you're seeing to see what your final emotion is. I suggested to you that infants don't have frontal lobe control. That's why infants are so emotional. As they grow up and the connections between the frontal lobe and the amygdala strengthen, the child learns to control their emotional responses. Stress is an emotional response. Fear is an emotional response. So it's controlled by the same exact parts of your brain. Now, we're going to talk for the first few minutes about this thing called the hypothalamic pituitary axis. And this is, so your amygdala, when you're scared, your amygdala activates your HPA, your hypothalamic pituitary axis, which causes two things to happen. It causes adrenaline to be released into your system, and it causes cortisol to be released into your system. Now, this adrenaline is what's going to cause your heart to start beating. It's what's going to cause your alveoli to get bigger, to expand. It's going to cause all this arousal stuff. Now, cortisol is going to increase the level of sugar and fat in your blood system, which are energy producing factors in your brain. So whenever we have this fight or flight response, we're going to get this dumping of cortisol and adrenaline in our system. Now, this increases blood flow to the muscles. It makes you stronger, able to fight. It increases your heart rate and all the sugars and gives you the energy to fight. And it actually it's going to increase your immune response, which is going to cause you to clot, okay? Which, if you get hurt in battle, that's going to help you prevent you from bleeding out. So, in a sense, this sympathetic nervous response is really good in times of threat. Now, the problem with life is this system was built for short-term activation. The bear comes, it tries to eat me. I have a sympathetic nervous response, I run away. The tension goes down, and I go back to a parasympathetic nervous state. Unfortunately, our bear never goes away. That job is always there. That exam is always there. The bills are always there. The medical problems are always there. So what happens is that is dangerous today is that we stay in a chronically activated sympathetic nervous state. Now, have you ever heard stress can kill? Have you heard that? Does anybody know why stress kills?
aneurysm kind of thing, where it's like a problem with your
Yes. Yes. It can cause stress levels, can cause strokes, blood aneurysms and strokes, blowouts in the brain vessels. Yes, sir?
And those things can happen because the stress hormones can put your body in a catabolic state.
Okay.
Just using itself for energy.
Okay. Right. Okay. So you start destroying your own body. Yep. Anybody online have a theory on why stress kills you? And Michael Caine's talking about kids, never a dull moment. Michael Caine is closer to my age, so he's gonna have been through the kid experience. Okay. All right, fantastic. Well, this guy, Hans Seeley, identified what tends to happen to people's immune system. He argued that when people become stressed out and experience chronic stress, what it does is it wears out the immune system that is activated by this stressful event. So a sympathetic nervous response increases your immunity. And what he showed was that if you keep activating this system long enough, it will die out. Anybody play video games in here? Do you have like the turbo boost on your player? How long can you use the turbo boost?
Until you lift your finger off that specific button.
Yeah, what happens if you use it too long?
Sometimes it's I.
It goes out. Okay. Think about your immune system, the stress, is kicking you into the turbo immune response with that turbo button. If it happens too long, it wears the system out and your immunity actually drops. And what he did was he has this graph where he shows it. Now what happens is as soon as your immune system is activated, as soon as your sympathetic nervous system is activated, your immunity actually drops momentarily. You don't want to puff up and swell up while you're in the middle of the fight. Okay, you want to do that afterwards with the immune white blood responding. So what happens is your immune response actually drops as soon as you're stressed out, briefly, but then it kicks into overdrive, what he called the resistance stage. And at this point, your body's going to have a lot of these immune molecules running through your blood system that are going to protect you against external threats. Right? And your immunity is actually going to increase. But after a while, what happens is this immune response gets tired and it actually goes down below your normal resistance. So if you're stressed out long enough, your immune functioning spikes when you get stressed out because it thinks you're getting ready to get injured. And then if it stays spiked long enough, it's actually going to lose its vigor and your immunity actually drops down below normal levels. Now, if you think about this, I had you watch a video last week, couple of weeks ago, Nadine Burke-Harris, how childhood trauma affects health across the lifetime. What she's basically talking about is this effect. These kids are traumatized during early parts of their life. It impairs their immune functioning, and this chronic impairment during these early stages of life may actually cause the child's just normal immune functioning to never recover. And then the child is susceptible to the kinds of diseases that you and I are normally protected from. Olivia says, one of my friend's fathers had a brain aneurysm after they won our championship game in high school. Holy cow, was he an excitable kind of person? I had a friend that died from a brain aneurysm a couple of years ago. He was a perpetually angry person that drank a lot of alcohol and didn't exercise very much. All risk factors for that kind of stuff. Okay? So the physiological implications of stress are this. It's going to lead to exhaustion in the system, decreased white blood cell count, increased heart rate. When you are in your sympathetic nervous response, your blood vessels constrict to bump up your blood pressure and give you more energy. That's good in the short term. not bad in the long term, not good in the long term, especially if you've already got clogged arteries from a poor diet, okay? So chronic high levels of glucose, stress is related to type 2 diabetes as well, so it can mess up the metabolism in your system for glucose. And elevated anxiety leads to problematic behavior. A lot of people will engage, like I mentioned, there are some health-related behaviors that can be affected by anxiety. Some people drink to minimize their anxiety. Some people smoke to minimize their anxiety. I'm a very anxious person by nature. I spent most of my 20s smoking 2 packs a day to control that smoking, even though that's not directly stress, that's indirectly the effect of stress. Some people drink a lot of alcohol to manage their stress level. These are all behaviors which have been known to correlate with poor health outcomes. So not only does the stress kill you, but the anxiety of the stress will cause you to engage in behaviors that are also not good for you, right? Now, here's the deal. Why do some people handle stress better than other people? Here's the deal. Some people, your ability to deal with stress, you can think of it as sort of a personality style. Some people are good at handling stress and some people aren't. You know, my mom was not good at handling stress. She was retired, living in a house with my dad, didn't have a job. She waited for a check to come. You know, the retirement check would come once a week. And my mom used to say, "I'm so stressed out." And I would look at her. The hell are you stressed about? You're sitting here in a house and a check comes that feeds you every month, right? And then there are some people who have 3 jobs, 4 kids, this and that, and you talk to those people and they don't experience stress at all. So stress really depends upon how you deal with the event. Stress is not an external thing. Stress is an internal thing. Remember how I suggested to you that your emotional response doesn't just depend on your amygdala, it depends upon your frontal lobe and how you choose to affect the functioning of the amygdala. Your frontal lobe can think about things. Your frontal lobe is what allows you to decide whether or not that object is really threatening or not. When one of your friends jumps out from a closet and says, "Boo," your amygdala is immediately terrified. But then your frontal lobe reevaluates and says, "You know what, that's just a friend playing a joke on me." Same thing with a stressful event. Something happens, your amygdala responds and says, "That's stressful." Your frontal lobe, your thoughts, can then adjust the tenor of the emotional response based upon how you choose to think about events. And this is the basis of rational emotive therapy and what we call cognitive behavioral therapy. Anybody here ever heard of cognitive behavioral therapy? Anybody? Raise your hand if you've heard that. That's a therapeutic technique. What they're just trying to do is to get you to recast the events in your life. Think about them differently, okay? And so what happens? This guy named Lazarus, he suggested that stress is really 2 responses. It's 2 events have to happen. The primary appraisal is you have to realize that something is a challenge to you, okay? You have a test coming up. You have an exam coming up. You've got to get up and get to work in the morning. Those are all challenges, threats, if you will. Your primary evaluation is that you have to meet that challenge. The secondary appraisal is what determines whether or not you experience stress. According to Lazarus, he argued that it's whether or not you feel like you can meet the challenge. Some of the students get really freaked out about final exams. Those are the students that feel like they can't pass the exams. Other students say, "We have a final exam, it's cumulative, but I know I can pass it." So really, what determines whether or not you're going to have an expectation of stress is this secondary appraisal. It's whether or not you think that you can meet the challenge. Now, what determines this challenge? Well, some people are just better at it. We have some personalities that just respond to stress better. We're going to talk about type A versus type B personalities. There are also coping strategies. And coping strategies is what I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. And then the third, we know that social support actually decreases level of stress. You know, I read this article today. Did you know that even rattlesnakes are comforted by the presence of other rattlesnakes? I just read this article in the Journal of Ethnographic Science. They took rattlesnakes and put them in a bucket, and then they smacked the bucket, which really pisses a rattlesnake off. It really scares them. And they measured the rattlesnake's heart rate, and they found that the snake's heart rate didn't rise as high when there was another snake in the bucket with them, almost as if the presence of another person, another rattlesnake, made them feel better. Okay? So these are the strategies that can help us. Now, what I'd like to do quickly is take you to Albert Ellis's model. Here is how we can learn to beat stress. Those of you at home are looking at this. This is called the ABC model of the stress response, created by a fellow named Albert Ellis. He argued that for most of us, we let the events that happen in our life affect us without taking any action otherwise. And most people think that when adversity occurs, there are automatically emotional consequences. My car got wrecked. This is the worst thing ever. I failed psychology class. This is the worst thing ever. He argued that the reason most people stress out about things is because of their initial beliefs about these events. And most people have what he called all or nothing kind of beliefs. I either have to be perfectly right or everything sucks. People have to treat me perfectly fair or everything sucks, right? I always have to be successful or everything sucks. Things have to turn out the way I want or everything sucks. He found that everybody has this all or nothing kind of thinking, and he argues this is what leads us to emotional consequences. So, I have to move. There you go. We have to move to Arkansas. I'm going to lose all of my friends. That's the worst thing ever that happened in life. Suddenly, Mr. Kendall over here is depressed about life because his beliefs are that moving to Arkansas, he's going to lose his friends, and that's going to be the end of the world. Now, what we need to learn how to do, and the hard part, and what cognitive behavioral therapists spend lots of time and get lots of money helping you do, is they help you to think again more carefully about the bad things that happen to you. That's all it is. So what he argues is that we need to dispute these ridiculous beliefs. We need to add a D in there. If we dispute these irrational beliefs, I must be perfect, I must be loved, everything must turn out right. Must. He actually called that masturbation. He said, avoid masturbation at all costs. Don't live in a world of musts. He argued if we can defeat those, that leads to a new emotional response, which leads to new feelings. This is what they do in cognitive behavioral therapy. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring Torrance in, and we're going to talk about his emotional problem. I don't know if he has an emotional problem. I'm just making that up right now. There he is, sitting there with no emotions whatsoever. The guy's calm. But let's say he came in to me and he told me that he had a bad temper and he always yelled at his kids and it was ruining his marriage because he would get into screaming fights with his wife. And so what we would do is we would look at when his partner does something that makes him angry, how does that make him feel? And he would tell me, well, it makes me feel this way and this way and this way and this way. And most of the time, your beliefs are based upon some presumptions. My spouse does this because they're trying to get under my nerves. When my wife does things that make me mad, the first thing is, she did that on purpose, damn it. And that's why I get so mad at her. But what you need to do is you got to stop and have a secondary thought. Now, what we do in cognitive behavioral therapy is, it's hard to do this in the moment. when my wife does something and I haven't prepared for it, it makes me mad. It's hard to think rationally. You know how when somebody does you wrong, you get mad right there in the moment, and it's hard to stop and make the right choice. So what they do in cognitive behavioral therapy is you come into the doctor's office and you practice the event before it happens. Okay, so I'd say, Gloria, what makes you mad? Well, let's go back to Torrance. Torrance, my wife yells and I have this feeling and this feeling and this feeling, and this is why I get so angry. Stop. We're in the office. Your wife's not here. We're not mad. We're not arguing. But you feel this way. Let's sit down in the office while we're all relaxed and write down the real things you should be thinking. Oh, well, maybe she had a bad day. Maybe she's doing this. Maybe it's not all personal. And we're going to write down that things while you're relaxed, because you can do it when you're relaxed. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you home, and guess what your wife's going to do? She's going to piss you off in 2 days. And then that initial emotion, that belief is going to pop up in your head. What we hope to do as the cognitive behavioral therapist is, as soon as you start to have those feelings, I'm hoping you can activate those new feelings that we talked about. In fact, you might even write them down on a card. You know what I mean? And when your spouse does something angry and you feel that emotion rising up, you read this. And what Albert Ellis, what cognitive behavioral therapists know, is that your response to stress, your response to the events in your life are habitual. They are habits. And just like any habit, they are automatic, but they can be changed with a little bit of conscious practice. All right? Now, here's the deal. Parents spend an awful lot of time these days protecting their kids from the bad things that happen in life. And you know what? Bullies suck, and it's not fun to be bullied, and it does cause bad things to do happen. But you know what? Sometimes getting picked on a little bit sort of helps toughen you up as a little kid, you know what I mean? Not making the team sometimes toughens you up a little bit. Sometimes failing a class or getting a C toughens you up a little bit, you know what I mean? Sometimes being on the playground and getting punched around a little bit, metaphorically speaking, is good for you. But what happens these days is we try our hardest, and I've got 2 kids and I raised them, and the thing that we try to do, we try to protect them from any adversity. And then the first thing they do when they leave the house is they meet adversity, and they haven't ever learned how to deal with it. And it's a really stressful, overwhelming experience, right? So, mindfulness. Michael Caine says he has turned to mindfulness and meditation to help himself with stress. You know, that is a great point. One of the things that I have done, I have a really horrible temper. I'm catastrophically bad with my temper. I smile in here. That's because y'all have to do what I say. But when people don't, I get really angry, okay? I'm very intense that way. Just like Michael Caine, I have realized that meditation, learning how to relax. Does anybody in here meditate? Anybody in here? Got a couple of meditators. It is, although I am horrible at it, it does help. It does make it better, doesn't it, Mike? He didn't do it. One of my friends had a brain aneurysm. Wow. Okay. So that's sort of what I want you to, and I know it sounds corny and you may not think about it, but think about the thing that distresses you the most. All right, so wait a minute. Actually, let's go back to you're moving to Arkansas. How did that make you feel? You're going to lose all your friends. You hated that. Let's think about that. What's a way we could turn that into a positive? What's a positive thing that occurs as a result of having to move to Arkansas? What? No, I can't. I can never make new friends. Yes, I can. You're absolutely right. What else? Yes?
You can enjoy the new things that Arkansas offers.
You can enjoy the new things that Arkansas offers. Absolutely. Great. Fantastic. What else? What's another positive of moving to Arkansas?
Experiencing culture and development. Learn more about how the world works in different places.
You know what? Yes, their culture is different from ours, so you definitely will You definitely will get to see a little grow a little bit as a human being. Yes, Arian?
At least you're not in Florida or Ohio.
At least.
Have you been to Arkansas?
Okay. My family's from Florida. It's a hot and sweaty armpit. Yes, so I feel like I know. No, actually, I'm not. I've got family in Florida. I spent a lot of time growing up there. It's hot and sweaty.
Did you know that alligators can climb fences?
And they got alligators and snakes too, right? There's just a number of reasons why Florida scares me. My family lives in Disney World, right outside of Disney World in Orlando. I used to have to go to Disney World every year as a kid. It's fun the first 3 times. After that, it's a real drag. Okay, let's see. Fresh start from knowing. Ooh, Caitlin's talking about a fresh start. You know, one of the things you can't do, let's say you got a bad reputation as a school. Maybe you did something in 8th grade, you puked on a teacher, or you did something in 8th grade and you developed that reputation that follows you. By moving to a different place, you get a fresh social start. Absolutely, right? So these are all different ways in which we can reevaluate, recast the event to hopefully change the emotional consequences of what we feel. Now, why is this important? You know what? There's actually experimental research that shows that your immune functioning is impacted by stress. So what they did was they brought these people into the laboratory, and they they had them fill out their level of stress. Talk about stressor and loneliness over the last 6 months. They had these people do that. And they then dabbed their nose with a cold virus, all right? They actually gave these people a cold virus and then waited. And what they found was the people who had chronic stressors in the red line were more likely to get sick over the next 6 months. The only difference between these two groups being is the level of stress that they had. So there is actually research to suggest that cold viruses, that stress can affect your immunity and cause you to catch a cold. And immune suppression actually can be classically conditioned this way. You can actually have events that affect the functioning of your immune system, and those triggers later in life can cause your immune system to tank. So maybe you were abused or beaten up or had traumatic experience at a particular environment. When you revisit that environment later as an adult, your immune functioning will actually dip in response to this classically conditioned stimulus. Right? Okay. Goodness me. Okay, there we go. I'm a little bit out. And their depression, sadness are also stress-related events that can affect our functionings. Did you know that institutionalized people with depression are 6 times more likely to die than the general population? Danish people with bipolar disorder were 50% more likely to die than the general population. People with high depression scores, 71% more likely to have heart attack than the general population. And Wang in 2009 did a study with a population of nurses, and found that nurses are 40% more, depressed nurses are 49% more likely to suffer a fatal heart attack compared to nurses with lower levels of depression. So what you're going to see is that negative emotionality, sadness, anxiety, all of these stress-related responses decrease your immune functioning by causing this sympathetic nervous response, which leads you to be less protected against environmental dangers that could make you sick. Now, there's actually, I do want to spend a couple of seconds talking about the type A personality. There is, and this is where maybe some of you can fix yourself. Anybody ever heard of a type A personality? Talk to me. Tell me what a type A personality is, Noah.
More outgoing and extroverted.
They can be, yeah.
More like leading.
Leading, yes.
That's as far as I remember.
Okay. Super competitive, anxious, impatient, always in a hurry, highly competitive, lose your temper often. Does it sound familiar to anybody? Who's a type A like me? I'm super competitive, absolutely. I'm super urgent, and I can have a bad attitude. Right, that's a type A personality. Nifty thing, this doctor, I forget the fellow's name, in the 60s actually noticed that some of his heart patients always tended to arrive early for appointments and always tended to be kind of nagging, impatient, and angry. And he found that those patients tended to come back for more heart troubles, right? He found that it was the patients that seemed to get there early and be anxious that seemed to be more likely to have relapses with heart troubles. And what he realized is that there was a personality difference he could identify. He called it the type A personality. And this person is an impatient person, a competitive person, and a hostile person. And a lot of research went out to look at the link between type A personalities and cardiac problems. And what he found and what the research showed was that to a certain degree, people with a type A personality are more likely to have stress-related heart problems. Now, you'll notice that the only thing I really have here in red is this hostile. Research over the decades, this was discovered in the late 60s. People have been looking at this for the last 60 years, and it turns out it's not a big deal to be impatient. It's not a big deal to be competitive. But if you're one of those person that explodes and has angry confrontations, you, my friend, have an increased likelihood for cardiac-related problems. So it's not just the type A person, but it's that really angry, screaming type A person. Does anybody have one of those persons in your life? Anybody know one of those persons that always freaking blows up about everything? Yes, absolutely, right? Okay, my friend with the aneurysm several years ago, always angry about something, always hostile, always looking to fight, right? And that's a risk factor for heart trouble. Now, there's this thing called the transactional model of the type A. The problem with being a type A person is that when you're that kind of person, you elicit that kind of response from other people. And when other people are angry and hostile to you, what do? You act angry and hostile back. So what I found is that when I go places and lose my temper on a $15 an hour employee, that $15 an hour employee gives me some attitude, which makes me even more angry, which makes them even more angry, and we get into this hostile go-around where you start the fight with the person at this pizza joint, and then the person at Walmart, and then the person here. And so one of the things that I think you could do, that I've done, that hopefully I'll bet you Michael Caine has done, is that we've learned to control the hostility in our behavior by meditating and trying to relax our emotional functioning. Okay? And the final thing I do want to tell you, one of the things that worries me most about your generation, you young folks, is that you folks are so independent and interested in social media that you've given up social interaction, right? You are not as interested, it seems like, in going out and meeting friends and having large groups of people. And one of the things is that social support is a buffer against stress. It's very important to have friends. Now, I'm not just saying this, you folks as an old boomer, okay? The data suggest that your rates of reported loneliness are really, really high. And the problem is having friends really acts as a social support. Now, you may be questioning whether or not you're going to get married. One of the most interesting things is whether or not having a romantic partner helps. And it turns out, even though this is going to sound old and boomerish, okay, it's actually better to be married than just to live with someone. Nobody knows exactly why, but when you look at these data, people's health, what you're going to find is that people who are actually married for one reason or another tend to have the best health, better than those who are cohabitating, who are much better than those who are single, divorced, or bereaved. So there's something about having a boo, a love, a romance, if you will, that's going to help you defend yourself against the negative effects of stress. And even though I am not particularly religious at all, okay, you may not be into marriage, but you have to admit that marriage helps, okay? I'm not that religious, but I have to tell you that the research suggests that a sense of spirituality, and more importantly, a participation in a spiritual group, okay, helps people live longer, live healthier, and live happier. So spirituality actually it works as a buffer against the effects of stress too. Why? Maybe it's the social support. I don't know. Maybe it's because they promote healthy behaviors like not doing drugs or having crazy random sex. Maybe it gives you a sense of meaning. I'm not sure, but spirituality does tend to help people experience lower levels of stress and the health effects that go with that. Okay, I have bored you for 55 minutes talking about stress. I want you to know that stressors are anything that cause you to have to respond, right? And it can be something as simple as having to fix your car, move to Arkansas, or me standing in your way in the hallway. It causes a physiological response. It can cause a physiological response depending upon how you choose to think about that thing. You can learn habits which will make you less susceptible to stress, okay? And I'm going to, when we get to class tomorrow night, we're going to talk about stress speeding strategies. In fact, there's a video that I have in your PowerPoint presentation by Dr. Kelly McGonigal called Make Stress Your Friend. And you know what she finds? Stress doesn't make you sick. Thinking stress makes you sick, right? And so what she finds is that people who say, yes, I'm stressed, but I like it, don't suffer the negative effects of stress. People who are stressed and say, yes, I should avoid stress because it's bad, those are the people that actually get sick. So to the degree that you can say, yes, I love stress, it will actually protect you from stress. I don't know about you folks, but I love having too much stuff to do. It feels like I'm playing a game. Can I survive today or not? Don't think of it as a negative thing. Think of stressful events in your life as a game. You're playing Frogger. No, that's an old reference. Space Invaders. No, that's an old. Candy Crush. You're playing Candy Crush, and it's your job to beat it, right? So if you think about stress in this way, it will make you healthy. I swear to God, watch this Kelly McGonigal talk. About 15 million people have watched this talk, so it's a bestseller. And then we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about happiness on Thursday. How many of you are happy? Anybody here happy? Really? Or are you just lying? You really? No kidding? Okay, good. We're going to talk about the keys to happiness on Thursday as well. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, folks, for coming to class. I saw a lot of people here today. Thank you for typing in the chat bar. Sporty, Michael, Caitlin, all of you people really did a great job blowing up the chat bar today. And thank you very much. So Ryan Chapin, did you come? Mahika's here. Let's see, Maya showed up. Mariana's not here. Andrew's not here. You're good. Oh, yes you are. I'm sorry. Whoa. And I sat here and looked at you the whole day too. All right, Mariana, she's clearly not here. Ryan Chapin, not here? Hey, take care. Thanks for helping in class. I appreciate the comment. Bye.